Looking back at us again from that perspective. So I imagine we would be very entertaining to see ourselves so far. Thanks again for coming.
I have a little bit of a cold, so I'm sorry my voice won't be, and I'm going to try and not use the microphone. So if you can't hear me, or if I'm talking too fast, just let me know, okay? And I'll try and slow down. Before we get to the future part, I'm going to try and talk through some projects I've been working on that all have a kind of temporal shift in them. So trying to think about different kinds of time frames. It's nice to be here, and I'm really interested to be taking part in a series about the perfect institution. Because the project I'm going to be talking about are trying to work directly with institutions and try to affect how institutions think and work. So, I was working with another artist called in 2006, and we were invited by LemonLake, which as you know is the main modern art museum in Sweden. And in 2008 they were going to be 50 years old. Oh, I should say I'm going to talk for about half an hour, and then I'm going to show a short play. So in 2008 they were 50 years old, and they were going to celebrate their 50th birthday, and they commissioned lots of people to help them celebrate. So they commissioned art historians, artists, critics, theorists to help them with the celebration. So this when I set about doing what we would normally do, which is to start thinking out how the institution works. So we visited what how people use the exhibition space, how people use the bookshop, education space where children work at the weekends, to try to get a sense of how the institution works. But we also thought that actually this 50-year celebration wasn't much of a celebration, because as you probably know, they were very, I'm not saying anything rude here, they were very, very influential in the 1960s and 70s, but hadn't really gone on much success. So their celebration was all black and white photographs of these amazing performances in the 1970s. And all the art historians and all the critics were celebrating this amazing stuff they were doing in the past. And it's like, when I got to 50, I wouldn't want to just be celebrating the fact that I was fantastic when I was 20, and nothing has happened since then. So I began to think, well, how can we encourage them to think more about what they might want to do? So this is looking through their archive, looking at their retail operation, their fantastic restaurants, their conservation department, so how they repair and look after the artifacts. So this is the book that they eventually were sort of working on. It's called the History Book. Of course, it's celebrating their past. So I thought, let's imagine it's 50 years in the future, and they're going to celebrate their centenary. So then I asked the people to interview lots of different people who were working in the village, from the director, the curators, the maintenance staff, the people who install the artworks, the people who clean the museum, and they should prepare a little bit and think about what they imagine the museum will be like in 50 years' time, all imagined they would be like Tate in London. That was their aspiration. So the museum would be bigger, with more advanced buildings, the collection would be bigger, they'd have more people, and they would be more precious. No one imagined anything else. So I thought this was really interesting that no one had a different kind of model for how the museum should be. So I thought, well, I'll write a future for them. I'll design a different kind of institution, I'll design a different kind of future in which to situate that institution. So then I started researching and building timelines to trace the history of different institutions and different art institutions, and then to project those institutions forward into the future. And when I felt secure enough about what this future might look like, I started to write a dialogue between the museum director and someone who was going to interview this museum director in 2058. So 2058 is the centenary of the London. And so this is going to be a film which would be a record of this conversation in 2058 and play. So this is the shooting of the film. This is Miss Chan, who's the interviewer. She's an archivist and she's somewhere in China. It's never very clear where. And this is A.M. Lindquist, who's the modernity director of 2058. And they have a kind of conversation. And of course, A.M. is recording the history of modernity, but actually it's our future. It's the next 50 years into our future. And this is what modernity looks like in 2058. Anyway, the film is online. It's called Museum Future. It's on Vimeo. You can find it and watch it. It's 30 minutes. But this timeline was really crucial in doing that project. So I was trying to, it started in 1851, my timeline. It started with the Great Exhibition in London, which was this famous moment when, in Britain at least, when technology, art and spectacle came together never before, and maybe set in motion every art institution, in every department store, in every shopping mall ever since. So for me that 1858 moment was very crucial. But then to drive that forward into the future was also anyway, the timeline was so popular, modernity turned it into a poster, so you could buy it. But this setting in motion is thinking about institutions, institutional structures, and about using timelines to help scroll forwards and backwards, like on a piece of editing software through time. And there's a huge new cultural institution in Madrid called Matadero, which is the oldest slaughterhouse in Madrid, and it's been transformed into a cultural centre. There's a contemporary art institution inside the Matadero, and they decided to screen museum features, so it sort of premiered in Spain at the Matadero. And then some of the ideas that are in the Museum Features film are about a kind of instantly accessible archive. So the institution, Moderne Musik, is archiving processes in real time, and the visitors can access the archive in real time. So it's a kind of, in the film it's called composite, and it's a kind of composite approach. So the people intermediate were very interested in whether they, as a relatively new organisation, could install something like that. Could they install their processes so that they were searchable from anywhere, a kind of real-time archiving process. So we set about working with a group of experts. We had a series of expert meetings, experts in archives and experts in information design. And we set about trying to map intermediate, so they used the timeline to try and plot all their projects. And we set about trying to map all the documents what we realised is that the server and the information structure was really been designed by someone in IT, and no one used it because it's designed by installation experts and not actually using the system. So they set about trying to redesign their server structure that would fit actually how they work, and to make that searchable by visitors. And we were trying to struggle with this kind of offline-online interface. How could this be an interface to the organisation online, but how could it also work maybe in an offline mode? So we set about installing this timeline, that when you enter into the you will see this timeline. This metal bar here is something you can scroll up and down. There's coloured bands of different kinds of projects and exhibitions and research themes that are on, so you can scroll up and down. So this is what it looked like when you enter. And then down at the bottom of these information cards that will give you more information about the project itself. So you can kind of slice through time and then look down and access more information about that project. So this was going to try and be some sort of online and offline interface to the institution that's called Intermediate. And while we were quite excited about this and it being a fantastic tool for the mediation department to explain what they do and how their projects are developed, we're very conscious that a timeline is a very disciplinary structure. It turns multiple events into a chronological linear narrative, which is often not how those events unfold, often they're simultaneous. So we were excited by this but realised it was very limited. So we set about trying to design an interface that was more sensitive. So we all set about making a game and worked again on trying to build a different kind of structure. Probably the hardest 10 days of my life, trying to imagine how to visually represent documents that are actually really dull. So it was a terrible struggle. But I'm just going to show you one small thing that we did, which is we basically built an analog database, which was, each of the projects was given a title, obviously it had a title, but then it had 6 categories. We involved 6 categories in this meeting, and each of those categories could have different items, written on those post-it notes. These are all the projects laid out. And then we could literally query the database. We could say, okay, show me the projects that have city funding, that involve children and are interested in the environment. And then you could go find the projects that had those categories and items and map them. This is really difficult to get over how extraordinarily transformational this was for them as an organisation. So they be projects that for them, or exhibitions that for them were very, very important. Turns out that when they actually queried the database, weren't so important. And they began to see relationships and what they began to call lines of work. They began to see that they had themes that they didn't even know were occurring. So the process of building the database, querying the database, and specialising the data, for them as an organisation was transformation. They changed how they work. And this is how, that was the 3 curators all mapping their own projects. They looked terribly homespun, but it was very, I can't keep saying it, was transformational for them. And this became a key document for them. So they transcribed their spatialised database, this kind of relation database, and we set about thinking, okay, how can we build this so it's an online function as well? Again, we set about thinking, how can it work both online and offline? But then it was 2009, the financial crisis hit, and that organisation was decapitated. So the director and all the directors lost their jobs, and only the administrators were left in its room. So the project is stalled right there. At the moment, when we're about to be, we thought we were on something quite special, it never found a public presentation, as of yet. I'm going to jump now to a project that led on and had some of the themes running called Self-Portrait on the Theme. 2011, an organisation called the Arnolfini in Bristol, in England, was 50 years old. You can see a theme coming now. Okay? They were 50, they were the first independent arts organisation of any kind of scale outside of London in Britain. So it's a very important organisation for England. They're 50 years old. Started in 1961 about a bookshop, very small, but grew into this quite big and important art organisation. Jeff has been working with someone in a curatorial capacity. And at the heart of the Arnolfini is this very big space, which is their kind of circulation space and their service space. This is how you get in, you go up and down the building, there are elevators and there are these corridors. So I thought this was a very interesting space because they don't really use it very much. In fact, they don't really use it at all, except for circulation and or they rarely use it, I should say. So I did what I've been doing for some time. I did a research about the Arnolfini. I built this kind of zoom model of the Arnolfini so I could try things out in it. And I started building this kind of timeline idea of running 3 timelines simultaneously up to the building. So this is what this person here is installing. He's installing these things that I ended up calling data sprites. So these are going to be little pieces of information. They're color-coded. One line traces the history of technology. One line traces the history of social organisation, and one line traces the history of art and its organisation. So you have these 3 colours and 3 lines, and they kind of cohort and flow through the building. And you can see there's quite a small budget really, so it's wallpaper being pasted on the wall, and you can see text is being rubbed down into these data sprites. And it starts in 1837. There's some famous riots in Bristol. So the people of Bristol actually tore down many of the public buildings because they were unable to get political representation. They weren't allowed to elect a member of parliament. So they tore down many buildings, but the Arnolfini was built at that moment. So this was in a way the way the building existed before the Arnolfini as an organisation. That seemed an interesting place to start. To be born in riots, to be born in a kind of turmoil. And then as you walked up through the building, you walked up through time, and you could trace these different elements. So, and then in 1961, the Arnolfini was done, but then this enters its own timeline. It begins to come its own history. But what begins to happen both in the modern movement and in the Arnolfini project is the institution is becoming conscious of itself. So in 2061, the Arnolfini knows itself as an institution. And the institution is telling its own history. That's why it's called self-portrait. So the institution is narrating its own coming to be. it's recording projects that are relevant for its own community, one of which will be the processes that are people project that is in the grid. So these data spikes are like small, almost Twitter-like condensation of information. And the project was quite popular, and so they decided to publish a book at the end of the year that the project was running for, which had all of the research that went into the final. So all of the material necessary to produce those little nuggets of information is published. And again, it goes to 2061, so again it pushes on into the future of the LLC. So his book, and you can see it uses the same structure, and obviously the LLC needs to remember its own timeline installation, so the timeline appears in its own memory as a record. And a small kind of side project I was nominated for a prize, partly for the project, and one of the things I did for the prize was to tweak the whole timeline. So something that was streaming timeline structure of the process and did very well. It's kind of an erosion of a institutional communist project. Again, I was asked to participate in an event at the Bitcoin Museum. Again, they are coming up for another celebration. They're much more than 50. They're almost 250. So I gave a lecture. It's a series of presentations in the text. So I gave a lecture as part of my presentation. And I can play the lecture to you now. It's 20 minutes long. And then I'll stop. It's great to be here with you. Really great to be here with you as part of the B&B's Life and Memory celebrations. I've really enjoyed the day so far. Thanks so much once again, and Alan for inviting me. Dan suggested, given my age and prosthesis, that I perform live play recall. I will do a lot of practice, but I'll do my best. So, I'm going to disconnect from composite now. Okay, I'm present, and repeating with the old school nostalgia of this face-to-face conference, I'd like to invite you to do the same, too. Could you all just also disconnect? Thanks. Well, you'll appreciate, as with all our play recalls, this will be partial and flawed. The threat of reloading is something like institutional subjectivity, or how the B&B became conscious of itself, a sort of self-portrait. I don't have time or energy to begin in 1857, so I thought a good place to start would be 2013 with the foundation of democracy. Okay, live. Some of the panels that you might remember, I think, inspired by the distributed soundwaves of Olmstein's 15-man movement in 209 and the various Occupy initiatives. Occupy cities, democracy, Occupy finance, and human culture. I also remember a network of events called the Arab Spring that a broad coalition of over 20,000 social enterprises and non-governmental organizations from over 47 countries began to network until it became in 213 the Multitude. It was the first major global civil society coalition initiated by the Multitude and protected by General Public License GPL v4, which had evolved from protecting flaws of icons. Icons began as an index of all resources currently in the public domain, but soon aggregated all open educational initiatives, free and university curricula, publicly funded law, science and medical research, systems design research, open access publishing, and of course some enlightening public museums and galleries. I recall V&A had foundation status. Icons became a vast pool of collective resources. Creativity was nurtured, and, outside of property restrictions, unleashed on a scale previously unimagined, we could even produce a threat to our current composite. After years of debate, I think we could thread back to 1972 with the proposal of the tolling tax. On 17 August 2014, a transaction tax was finally implemented by the then European Commission and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. It was a landed micro-tax of 0.05% on every transaction in the financial industries. Instantly, it curbed the volatility of high-volume, federal, short-term trading. Arcane financial instruments, like algo dark pools, were repurposed to be socially productive. Revenue began to flow from speculation into public domain resources. It's the beginning of our fantastic and well-resourced public museums and galleries. And, of course, the V&A benefited enormously. Some of you might also be able to remember in 214, War Child, a century war, a year-long research project into the centenary of the first industrialized global conflict. There were some major exhibitions, like the early works of the Bliss, and then in the summer, War Shapes Lives, Anthem for Doomed Youth, in collaboration with the Museum of Conflict and what was then the Milton, here in Newcastle, and in the autumn, Freedom, explored the role of women in war and control for enfranchisement. Of course, these exhibitions, events, and research are memorable because all of the source data made freely available to icons. In September 215 at the Icons Government Summit in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the V&A participated in drafting guidelines on radical transparency. Radical transparency, pioneered by the multitude, encouraged accountability in public institutions. Through processes we take for granted now, like public agendas, published minutes, open public meetings, open budgets, for full financial disclosure, use of office exits, and so on. Previously, there had been a lot of lip service paid to openness and participation at public institutions, although usually this meant increasing visitor numbers and not actually enabling truly public participation. The radical transparency guidelines formalize core values and processes, and develop them into museum operating systems. I think it was in 216, as a consequence of the unwinding of the £13 billion overspent on the 2012 London Olympics, the government embarked on a round of pre-election cuts. The then Department for Culture, Media and Sport disbanded Arts Council England exactly 70 years after its foundation. I recall that in 218, there was a radical expansion of the V&A's interest in computational practice. They readdressed the source, the legendary silent necessary Big exhibition at the Institute of Contemporary Art, ICA, in London, on the occasion of its 50th anniversary. The 60th exhibition is recalled as the first encounter between machine assembly and basically creativity, in collaboration with JP1, the Whitechapel, and the Critical Practice Network. The original curator Jocelyn Redhart, she was, I think, about 85 then, but still very sprightly, opened the year-long research project. Machines and processes, both analog and digital, were emulated through a variety of media ecologies. What was remarkable was that the project was not simply historical or archival, it was productive and creative, even generative. It initiated a whole new strand of recursive programming at the V&A that I guess even this widespread recall is part of. Oh, I could never forget the legendary exhibition project. This 3-year research project, initiated by the BiliBili, was launched. Yes, on the 5th March, the project encompassed a lightning exhibition at Taira to reveal the intention of holding out or showing evidence in a legal court. Enlisting the genealogy of exhibition is the desire to show, display, and share with others. By foreverly grasping this ancient drive to desires for more contemporary notions of creative co-production, exhibition as a practice which reaffirmed as core to the BiliBili's aspirations, and at the same time, to source, participate, co-produce, and share to generate non-lifeless resources became vital to the constitution of sustainable public institutions and structures of government. At Taira, the practice of exhibition was amplified through the icon's public domain network, and indeed, its values replicated at an astonishing speed throughout civil society. I remember that in 222, the BiliBili began a self-reflexive critique of the 19th century museum model. Of course, a model needed so much to initiate, replicate, and develop. It's difficult to recall now, but principally this 19th century museum model and its 20th century intensification was unsustainable. It was a corporate model of an exhibitionary institution that has to constantly expand, commission signature buildings, evolve huge administrative hierarchies for exhibition, education, development and management, and so on, and so on. So, the BiliBili resolved to institute, in the ancient sense of the word, of founding and supporting, creative practice. The BiliBili began to rethink itself as a creative, rather than a merely exhibitionary institution. More fluid, engaged, nimble, less spectacular. It began to play, risk, cooperate, research and rapidly prototype, not only to research and distribute exhibitions, such as Taira, but also with its governance and organizational structure. Some heritage values were lost, like prohibitions on dissection and others produced, maintained, even nurtured, and cherished. In January 227, the spectacular 65-year rollercoaster ride of the solemn La Guggenheim Foundation was over. The Guggenheim Aquilani, the cluster in New York, Venice, Bilbao, and the Deutsche Guggenheim in Berlin, together with unfinished projects in Shanghai and Moscow, were all, I recall, taken into Maltese stewardship. The demise of the Guggenheim and the concomitant collapse of the singularity bottom market forced other hyper-resource private museums into stewardship, like the Axel collection in Vienna, the von Braun's Center for Contemporary Art in Beijing, and the MOCA in Qatar. They all filed for Chapter 12 protection with the new annual visitor. Of course, artworks from the failed museums evolved to the Maltese and ventured public museum collections. In a spectacular reverse of resource flows, tens of thousands of artworks poured into public collections from previously private institutions. The BiliBili benefited enormously from a spate of default donations, and ethical public generosity was distributed, nurtured, and encouraged. Everyone benefited. I remember his famous highlight for the BiliBili. No, not the one about the Ace Cafe, but this. To enact, to be more ancient than native, it's a quote from Margaret O'Connell, the BiliBili's new fixed-term executive, when she inaugurated the exhibitionary phase of operating system, governance, the result of a 2-year research led into exhibition and technology, and implemented an institutional logic. The project concluded with the realization that the BiliBili needed radical revision. It needed to add an executable function to its research and exhibitionary core. In the past, being a spectator meant looking at a spectacle. It was like being a member of an audience, like the experience you are performing today. And the act of spectatorship, looking, is the opposite of knowing or doing. It's a state without any power of intervention. Being a spectator means being passive, and did not dominate arts or reception, and the practice of exhibitionary institutions for much of our recent history. By 231, the advent of the BiliBili's co-produced exhibitionary networks, late operating system, governance, the operation of the radical transparency guidelines, and access to the icons network produced a tipping point. Spectatorship was largely overridden by agency and engagement, and in turn, representation was replaced by co-presence. By 235, trust, circulating through logistical systems of attention, systems of capture, accumulation, and distribution, all producing new ecologies of value. Attention is both a power and a communicative medium, and nothing moved outside of its sphere of influence. Everything is permeated by attention. By the same token, no exchange of attention, no matter how small, bodily, and intimate, or wrapped in volume and scale, is possible without trust. The BiliBili men and the distribute trust and attention. It's a super institution, a supergroup in contemporary ecologies of value. This is hardwired. I remember it well. The date, it remains the seismic event on the 6th February 237 at the Firms and Research Cluster at the Manchester Open University, and Organic Synthetic Assembly participated in the legendary Turing test. In an examination that lasted more than 3.5 hours, a panel of human judges were unable to preempt which of the participants was a human subject. For the first time, an organic synthetic assembly was credited with human-like intelligence. An evolutionary firewall was reached. By 243, there were mature economies of trust and attention. To attend is to invest. It's to invest in values, not headlong, future, fugitive, contingent values. Time, trust, generosity, prestige, love, and respect are the currencies in these economies of attention. There are aspects of private interests and the residual retail culture that strive to capture attention. They thrive on minimum, short-term, quantified, calculated investment. Attention to be bought and sold. Any long-term investment of attention, of creativity, of love and generosity are always at risk. The BiliBili goes into these colonies and nurtures their currencies. Skirmishes break out, often escalating into local conflicts for the social currencies at play. There is a diffused sense of permanent emergency, a low-grade war, in the political economy of attention. Britain Maker was a legendary, vast, temporary exhibition of product design and manufacturing at the BiliBili in 1946. It was intended to kickstart consumerism after the disaster of World War II. I visited the local centenary exhibition in 246. Some of the exhibitionary architecture in the first iteration was reinstalled. Many objects reproduced, and I even printed a mutated version of Nisha Black's prototype electric bicycle. I still ride it, well occasionally. Hydrogen stacks were pretty bulky back then, although the bamboo monocoque is still beautiful. The BiliBili report Britain Maker as an opportunity to explore the legacy of resource profligacy. There was so much carbon and so much energy locked into the simple reflections of financial capital in the 20th century, and the ethics of belonging. It had already been 10 years since Britain had evolved into local, regional assemblies, coordinated as part of the European multitude. Britain as a nation-state had long lost its citizens' trust, their attention, and administrative authority. I would broadly characterize the heritage of human philosophical inquiry as premised on an already constituted subject, a conscious, self-present, sovereign individual in possession of private property, anterior to, or before, communal relations. In contrast, almost reality, composite consciousness, the research exhibition the BiliBili initiated in 250 to coincide with the centenary of joint seminal paper computing machinery and intelligence was an exploration of logistical, distributed, or networked subject relations. the very foundation of contemporary self-presence. Composite consciousness is the music that constitutes the social identity of those present and those not, and it is that in presence between those present and those not is the archive, collection, database and metadata memory of composite consciousness. This composite consciousness shifts self-presence into the future, or reflects the past into the present. I was involved as advisor in 251 to the agent plus your BiliBili. That campaign for new articles have been added to the new Acknowledgement Declaration of Human Rights. According to Article 6 of the UNHCR, all humans are persons under the law, but there is a philosophical and legal distinction between humans and persons. Humans are those that fall within the biological classification Homo sapiens, whereas a person refers to those with certain traits or characteristics. Was it John Locke? Yes, I think it was John Locke, who, around the 1680s, defined a person as a thinking, intelligent being that has reason and reflection and can consider itself as itself, the same thinking thing in different times and places. Organic synthetic assemblies were approaching personhood, yet were unable to enter the biological classification Homo sapiens. The BiliBili cluster positioned through research and exhibition to add 39th article to the new LemonLake extending human rights to appropriate organic synthetic assemblies. Oh my, time is running out, so I really don't have time to recount the BiliBili's part in the bicentenary of the Great Exhibition, although I'm sure many of you here will have participated. As you all know, our composite network went live in 254. All common data, information and knowledge, every common archive, database, collection, and DNA storage device is accessible live and in real time, extended by and disassembled by composite, our desires, investments, and potentials produce new logistical populations. Consciousness is arrayed in greater networks of association and concentrated in multiple locations. In composite social assemblies of persons, institutions, technologies, and geographies. Well, most of you are here to celebrate. Rightly so. What great achievement for the BiliBili, given your defining moment, and on the eve of your bicentenary. Sir Henry Cole would have been proud. So, you don't need me to remind you. But, of course, I will. It was almost a year ago, on the 19th October, that the BiliBili sponsored Article 39 of the new Acknowledgement Declaration of Human Rights, extending rights to organic synthetic assemblies, was approved. Congratulations. Okay, that's it. The local thread I've been running is out of time, and we're more or less up to date. Today, throughout the BiliBili and all our intensities, we are celebrating. Thank you so much for your attention. Please feel free to reconnect to Composite and enjoy the rest of the celebrations. Thank you.